Today we are looking at one of my favorite Chaves knives models, and that is the Scapegoat. What is going on, guys? Carter here with Edge Mindset. Got another video for you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe, share, get those notifications going, all that normal YouTube fluff. It really helps me out. It may sound like a broken record, but that's what keeps me going here, being able to grow my channel, get new people in here, continue the community, grow the community, get the conversations going. Also pop into the community section of my channel if you want to upload your own photos, comment on other people's, share some information, share the things that you're into, because this is all about the people. That's why we do this. I have enough knives. I don't need any more knives. I need friendships and I need people. That's why I'm doing this. All right, so let's take a look at the Scapegoat. Now, let me caveat this, right? So this review, if you want to call it that, overview, discussion, whatever, this is going to be more visual based, right? I'm not going to sit here and argue that the Scapegoat is the best cutting tool that you can get. I don't think it really is. You know, there's some things with this knife that doesn't make it optimal for being your primary cutting tool if that's all you're after. Now, that being said, it's by no means some sort of fluff knife that doesn't really have the chops to be a cutting tool. It absolutely does. I'm just saying it's not the number one choice if you're looking for the best knife for cutting. But if you like Chaves knives, if you like the design, if you like the finishes, the price point, the quality, all those things, then this can absolutely be that primary knife for you, because I really like this one. So Chaves Knives, quick overview, started with a man named Ramon Chavez, I believe in New Mexico. He started making custom knives like a lot of these makers do. I assume out of either a small machine shop or his garage back in the 2000s. His first knife, folding knife at least, I believe was the Redención. Got some notoriety there, started to grow the company. He did some American-made production versions of that knife called the Redención 228. And then he started to grow the company and offer true production knives outsourced to Riot. As far as I know, he's only done Riot. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe he's done some other OEMs. And so that's where we are now. He's kind of grown into a pretty large company. It's a pretty cool story to go from just a custom knife maker to a full-fledged production knife company. Now, that being said, it's still kind of on the niche side, right? In terms of like the entire production knife scope, Benchmade, Spyderco, things like that, he is on the smaller side. You know, because for all intents and purposes, he's got a handful of models, and he's the type of company that kind of focuses on those models. They're kind of sacred models, and then he does different variants of it, different colors, handle materials, things like that. So you've got different versions of the Redención. You've got the Streets, which if you don't know, if you see a production Chaves knife with the term Street, that means it's on the smaller side. Coincidentally, the only one that's kind of confusing is the Scapegoat here. You'll see this referred to as the Street, even though there is not a large version of this knife, and this knife is not particularly small either. So this one is kind of a little bit of an oddball. You can see it's about the size of a paramilitary 2. It is a little bit of an oddball in that respect, but like the Street Redención and then the full-size Redención, two completely different sizes, very different. And then there's the RCK9 here. He's got the Liberation. He's got a few models, and he does different versions of it. So I like that kind of setup. I like there being kind of the quintessential models of a company that I like, and that for the most part, they kind of stick to it and do just different variants and versions of it. Similar to Strider is kind of on the extreme end of that, where essentially, you know, Strider really only has one folding knife design that most people know, and that's this design, and then it comes in a bunch of different sizes. Now, Strider has done different models in the past, and they've succeeded to varying degrees. But for all intents and purposes, like, this is the Strider, right? It's this design. And if you love this design, it's cool to kind of collect the different variants and versions, different blade shapes and materials and things like that. So I appreciate that. I know some people don't, though. Some people want new designs all the time, kind of like Wii knives. All the time they're releasing new models, new designs. They don't really have a core menu of designs that they are producing, and then they're doing different versions of it. They're constantly cranking out new designs. Some people like that. I tend to go on this side. So now that I've gone on the tangent with Chaves knives, let's actually talk about the knife that we're talking about here. I might have to title this video something other than Scapegoat Review because, you know, I really like going off and talking about different things. So this is a version that came out a year or two ago. As you can see, it is BNIB, never used, never carried. Just kidding. I've used the snot out of this thing. This is a what they call the 50 series. So when they do kind of a new, I don't know what you want to call it, a new launch or iteration of a knife, now they've been doing these 50 series. This was part of the first run of the 50 series. So this is the Dirty Steve. It has 3V steel, which is uncharacteristic of Chavez. Typically, you're going to get M390, but this one is in 3V. It has a gray PVD coating that's now pretty worn. Originally, it was, you know, gray, titanium frame lock with cool linen micarta inlays on here. And they did other versions, the Conundrum with brass inlays, and they did carbon fiber inlays and different blade finishes and all kinds of stuff. And they did the same 50 series for the most recent Redención Integral 229 series that they released. And this one is the most recent release of the Scapegoat, which came out just like a month ago at the Texas Blade Show. It's essentially a normal Scapegoat that then has been heavily rocked on the handle with this awesome rock pattern. You can see the grind lines in here. It's absolutely killer. But then you also get the belt satin that Riyadh is so well known for. This was just in the M390. Let's do some more comparisons here. Here it is next to a Chub. Speaking of Chaves knives, let's do butt to butt here. You can see there's the overall size with the Chub. We already did the Paramilitary 2. We could do the Orca from Poikilo, even though it doesn't really make sense because not that many people own this knife, but I have it here, so I want to show it off. That's what I do most of the time. The whole like knife review size comparison thing, I always find kind of funny because like after you get through a couple of them, it just seems gratuitous. And so when I do size comparisons, I just usually do it as a way to show off knives that I have sitting around for review just for fun, because I don't think, you know, after you kind of compare it to a couple common knives, it's like it just seems like you're eating up time. But that's just me. That's just me. Let's do a size comparison here, even though, you know, it's a little inaccurate because the different versions will weigh different. 4.8 ounces. So very heavy. And I'll talk about that here in a minute. 4.8 ounces. This one will be more. 5.4 ounces. And I would imagine that the full regular Scapegoat is probably 5.5 ounces. This one has, you know, it has some titanium removed because of the sculpting. So I'm sure, you know, collectively, it's probably about an ounce that this has been reduced. Now, why is it so heavy? It's because Chavez doesn't do any lightening or milling inside the scales. He kind of does old school, heavy type knives. The only time you're going to get weight reduction is with like the inlays here, because they mill out all of this titanium to put this in. And then this one also has micarta backspacer instead of solid titanium there. The number one thing that I see people complain about this knife is the size of this choil. Now, if you are not a choil fan, then maybe Chaves knives isn't for you, because Chavez loves his chisel ground blades and he loves his choils. I happen to like both of those things. Some people don't, especially the choil, because you're going to see the choil more often on Chaves knives than not. The chisel ground blades he offers, but it's usually certain editions. Like you can get a chisel ground 229, but then they offer regular V ground blades out the wazoo. Usually the chisel is like a special edition that you actually have to try to get. The choil, though, is going to follow you around, and this one has a huge choil. In fact, for most of his designs, he's actually nerfed the choil quite a bit from his custom knives to his production knives, meaning like the 229, right, which is the production version of his Redención. If you look at a custom Redención, it is going to have a massive choil, much larger than what you're going to see in the production knife. With the Scapegoat, however, he didn't nerf it. This is about the same. In fact, if I had to say what production Chavez knife is closest to the custom counterpart, it would probably be the Scapegoat. The main difference, other than, you know, quality details and some some artistic touches. The main difference between this and the custom version really is just blade thickness. The custom version has a considerably thicker blade than the production version. Other than that, and other than kind of the finishing and knowing it's done by hand by Ramon Chavez, this is very, very similar to the custom version, which is cool depending on your perspective. If you are an advocate of the custom Chaves knives, you might think it dilutes the brand a little bit. But if you are in the production realm, it's pretty cool to get something so close to the custom versions. So we've got a decent high grind here. This is flat ground. It is pretty thick behind the edge. Not crazy. I mean, we're not talking like obnoxiously thick, but this is more of the overbuilt heavy duty. This edge is not going to chip on you. It's not going to roll on you easily. It can take a lot of abuse. You can see how thick that tip is right there. How much cutting length do we have on here? I'm guessing like 2 3/4 maybe. No, 3. So about 3 inches of cutting length, which for a knife this size honestly isn't bad. I hear a lot of people complain about the choil, that's cutting length. Like, how many people are really getting this deep into material? I'm sure there's some that are, but most people are using up here, right? You're cutting packages, you're cutting things, maybe down here if you're kind of doing push cuts through things. But I don't think a lot of people are using the 1/4 inch of a 4-inch blade for cutting, but maybe I'm wrong. I know I don't. I see this as an EDC knife, meaning I'm carrying it around in my pocket. I'm using it for everyday cutting. If I have a specific task, a bunch of cardboard to get through, or if I'm cutting some pipe, I'm going to use like a box cutter with a replaceable blade. I'm not going to use my nice pocket knife. This is like, it's kind of like, okay, we're going to go on a tangent here. It's like carrying a handkerchief, right? You carry a handkerchief for those little handkerchief tasks you need going around. If you get the flu and you're on your bed and you're hawking up boogers and all these things, you're not using a handkerchief, you're using Kleenex, right? That's a very specific time that you can go out and get disposable things for that job. A handkerchief is for just walking around when you kind of need a little something for some light handkerchief duties, not when you're on your deathbed hawking up a lung. I see the same thing with knives. If you have a considerable task ahead of you, get a better suited tool, whether it's a more purpose-built tool or just, in this case, one with a disposable blade, because you're going to beat the crap out of it. This is for walking around. Somebody needs to cut some string on something, need to get in a package, or, life-saving thing. You need to cut a seat belt or something like that. You have something sharp on hand. Anyways, off on my tangent here. Let's get back to the knife. So really cool blade shape. I mean, it just looks absolutely killer. We've got some very well-placed thumb studs here. Reverse flick, front flick, all of those things. There's no flipper. There's no front flipper, nothing like that. There's no jimping on the back of this either. So you do get locked in with this curve right here in this very simple blade shape, but you're not going to get much grip on your thumb. So if that's a problem, it is what it is, I guess. You can do a little pinch gripping here. You're not the most secure because there's no jimping or anything, but it feels pretty good. It locks in your hand. You can get your finger up on towards the tip there. Very, very functional. Very, very beautiful. Really like this blade shape myself. Once again, with the handle, very simple, right? Not a lot going on here. It is comfortable. I'm not going to say it is ergonomics through the roof, as Edwin Kahlo would say. Go check out his channel if you like Emerson's. Kahlo blades. He always says ergonomics are through the roof. You can feel, though, that there's no overt hot spots, right? It's nice and chamfered all the way around. It looks angular, but it doesn't feel uncomfortable. And this pocket clip that is very polarizing. Some people like it, some people hate it. No hot spots. It's very smooth. Nothing digs into anything. I think it works pretty dang well. Speaking of the pocket clip, you may not like the styling of it. By the way, these all come with generic clips. So all the newer Chaves knives come with generic clips that don't have the skull on there, if that's something that bothers you. But really good retention, very strong, slides in and out of the pocket very well. You got plenty of clearance. This one, you might run into a little bit of bunching on some thicker material. This one, however, because of the inlays, it's all smooth. So something to consider if you're choosing between the full frame lock or the bolster lock version. This one is going to go in and out of your pocket a little bit better. This one's also going to be a little bit lighter, so it's a little more EDC friendly with the inlays than the classic titanium version here. Overall, this is just a thick, super built knife running on bearings, lock bar insert. Another thing to point out aesthetically is Chavez likes to accentuate his hardware. He doesn't hide them. In fact, he usually has them stick out kind of proud. Same with inlays. He likes proud inlays like on this chub here. That's just what he likes, and you'll see that on the customs as well with these big chamfers. He likes big, crisp chamfers. One of the things I like about Chaves knives in general is the juxtaposition of the skull motif, which reminds you of the mortality of yourself and your loved ones in life, and you need to kind of live your life to the fullest to get the most out of it. But it's juxtaposed with very clean, symmetrical lines, right? Very nicely executed. It is not rough and tumble in appearance. And his knives have become more and more that way, even in the custom knives. They're not like gritty, like rough and tumble garage made. They're very clean and precise. And I really like the juxtaposition between like the skull motif and kind of just how futuristically, I don't know about futuristically, but you know what I'm trying to express? Like with these nice chamfers, everything is sharp and crisp. It's not muddy. Nice grind lines, all of that stuff is what I really like about Chaves knives. So comment down below, what do you think of Chaves knives? What do you think of the Scapegoat? Do you have one? Are you thinking about getting one? I want to hear from you guys. Once again, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. Have a good day, weekend, year, all of that stuff. I am out.